Hi everyone, it's time for another Smart Art box, so let's just get right into it. I'll have everything linked down in the description, but this is what's in this month's box. So as always, it comes with our pamphlet. So the first thing I see in the box here are these Marabu mixed media art crayons, and these are water soluble crayons. It looks like we get 5 here, a yellow, a red, a blue, a white, and a black. So that's pretty cool. So that'll be pretty cool to try out. We've also got this Sennelier Abstract Innovative Acrylic. It looks like a liner in gold. I'm guessing iridescent gold. So that's pretty cool. And I like that it comes with a little tip. The next thing I see is this Swedish fish snack. So we always get a little treat in our box each month, which is kind of nice. Sometimes I eat them, sometimes I don't. Then I see these Iridescent paint brushes, and it looks like we get them in a few different sizes and some different, like a dagger and a slanted one. That's pretty cool. I've never tried out this brand for brushes before. Then it looks like it comes with a smartart palette knife. So this is a smartart brand one, and it's sort of like a rounded edge there. Then we get 2 acrylic sprays, and it says these are mixed media sprays. They're waterproof. And let's see if it says what colors they are. This is in a gray, and this one is in a gentian as well. Gentian, I'm not sure. So a gray and a blue. Then it looks like we have these smartart round canvas panels, and it does say that they're 100% cotton, so that's pretty cool. Suitable for use with all acrylic paints, oil paints, and other wet or dry media. So that's pretty cool. So we get 4 of those, it looks like. And then here's our sticker for the month, and I actually quite like that. That's pretty cool. It's sort of all different colors of paint, maybe. And then the last thing that I see in this month's box is these mixed media stencils from Faber-Castell. So this is probably what we can use to go over top of our canvas board. Okay, and these are what comes in the pack. Okay, so they're not huge stencils. They're small-ish, but they are pretty nice. They're pretty flimsy, so it's paper. So I'm wondering, you know, once you would get it wet a few times, if it would maybe start to rip apart. I'm not sure, but these are what the stencils look like. Since it's really hard to see from the other ones, I'll just hold this up for a second. So those are all the stencils that we got this month. So this is kind of an interesting box for me because I don't normally do mixed media. Like, I'll mix markers with colored pencils or watercolor and colored pencils, but I don't really do different types of mixed media. So this is actually going to be quite interesting for me to get into and play around with. So I'm kind of excited to try some of these products out. I actually had a lot of fun creating this month's artwork, and as I said before, I've done mixed media, but that would be like watercolor and colored pencils, pastels and colored pencils, things like that. I've never used like acrylics and watercolor pencils or canvas boards all together like this, so this was kind of an interesting box. When I first received it, I was kind of like, oh no, what am I going to do? But I'm actually quite pleasantly surprised with what I came up with. Now for the prompts, obviously retro, I feel like the colors kind of encompassed that because we have a lot of the bright colors. And for journey, I ended up using the journey stencil to write that down, but I was thinking of what could represent a journey, and who better than Han Solo himself, who has journeyed the galaxy, if you're a Star Wars fan. Who better than that to encompass the word journey? And then for spiral, I was actually inspired by Miranda Watson from Alkali Creek Art. I hope I pronounced that right. She had done the Smart Art box as well this month, and I will link her video down in the description below because I really enjoyed watching her version of it. But she did this really fun circular spiral in the background of hers, so I kind of took some inspiration from that, but I did some straight lines in mine instead. And if you look really closely in mine, you'll notice that they're not all even because apparently I didn't count them out correctly, and then I had to add some odd ones in here and there just to make the design work. But maybe you wouldn't have noticed that if I didn't point it out. And then for whimsical, well, I'd like to think the whole thing is just whimsical because I usually don't create art in this way, so. Now for the art products themselves, the Marabu art crayons were actually pretty fun to use, and they laid down pretty easily on this canvas board. I thought I was going to have a lot of trouble laying them on top of it, but they just laid on so smooth and so creamy. I barely had to work to get them on. And then when I went to blend them out, I barely had to use any water at all to blend them out onto the canvas. The only one I noticed I had a little bit of trouble with was the blue, and I feel like it just, when I blended it out, it was just a little bit thinner than the other one, so that could be more of a pigment thing rather than, you know, that crayon just not working as well. But I have to say they worked really well. They would lift a little bit when I needed them to, and I could layer over top of them just as easily because you'll notice as I go, I kind of take a brush and I get a little bit of water on the end of the brush and I dip it on the crayon itself, and that's how I kind of fix up some edges around Han Solo, and I also go around the word journey at the end to kind of fix up some of the edges there. The Iridescent Taklon brushes worked just fine, just like any other Taklon brushes that you would get. I noticed it was a little bit hard to use the bigger brush just because some of the areas I had on this were a little bit smaller to get into, so I started going back to the smaller brushes, but they blended out the colors just fine, especially when I was doing the acrylics. So the Marabu acrylic spray paints, that was kind of fun to work with, and at first I was debating whether I was going to use the blue one or the gray one, but I thought the gray would just look a little too stark on its own, so I decided that I was going to put the blue down and then put the gray on top, and that just looked horrible. So you'll see I kind of dabbed that up, and then I ended up just going with the blue on its own, and instead of spraying it, I ended up opening the top and taking one of the brushes and dipping it in that way and putting it directly onto the canvas, and that worked so well. It didn't spread on the canvas because I was expecting it to kind of like soak into the canvas and spread out a little bit, but it pretty much stayed exactly where I put it on the canvas, so that was really nice, and those brushes worked really well with those. The only thing you'll notice, I'm trying to rinse out one of the brushes afterwards, and like that paint got in there and stained it. I had to take it to the sink and wash it out afterwards, but it did wash out fine. Now, I was a little worried when we first got the stencils because they seemed very flimsy and they didn't seem like they would hold together pretty well, but I was actually pleasantly surprised. So you'll see as I'm doing the journey word, I just stick it down, I put a cup over top of it so it hopefully won't move, and then I'm taking that white Marabu crayon and I'm trying to fill it in. And I think at first I'm pressing just a little too lightly because I was trying to do a light layer and then blend it out with some water, and that didn't work at all. So what I ended up doing is just taking the crayon and kind of smushing it in and smushing it down into the stencil so I could get a nice thick white, and that worked really, really well, but I was worried that it was going to ruin the stencil. And when I took the stencil off of it, all I had to do was just take tissue paper and wipe it off, and it was fine. So I was quite surprised how those held up. And even when I took the little bit of water around the word journey the first time, the stencil held up just fine with that. Now for the Sennelier Abstract Liner, I really like the liner. I like the color of it, but I'm not sure I like it in this artwork. My first thought was, oh, I could make little dots in the background and maybe it'll look like some stars in the galaxy or something like that. Well, this is really thick. It's like thick acrylic heavy body paint. So when I was putting the dots on, they were forming like little peaks. Every time I would lift the thing, it would form like a little peak and it would poke out. So I'd have to go back with the top and kind of smush it down, and I was trying to make them flatter. And I'm not sure if I like the look of it, but I really like that Sennelier Abstract Liner. I'm going to try to find some way to use it again because that is really fun to use. Now, I can't speak too much to the canvas panels, but I can say it did perform well for what I was using it for. It didn't warp at all. There was no areas on it where pigment wouldn't stick to it. I feel like it performed like any other canvas panel, but I do appreciate that this was 100% cotton, and so that it's archival, so that when you do your artwork on top of it, it will last. If your supplies are light, fast, and archival also. I didn't end up using the mixing palette knife, but I mean, I'm sure that works just like any other palette knife would. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I have a giveaway going on right now because I've reached 500 subscribers and I am so excited, and I so appreciate you guys for that, supporting me. So if you want to go ahead and check out that video, it will be open until Sunday to apply for the giveaway, and then I will announce the winner on Monday. So if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye!